What we are going to discuss today is about the slope or gradient of a line. So in mathematics, we know that a slope or a gradient is a number that describes both the direction and the steepness of a certain line. Now, there are three possible scenarios that could involve finding for the slope of a line. So the first case is when you are given 2 points. The other one is when you are given the equation of a line. And the third, which is actually the simplest, is when you are simply given the graph. So given 2 points, so for example, there are 2 points which are given, and we look for the equation or for the slope of this line. So just remember the slope formula in this case. So if, for example, we have 3, -1, and the other point is -5, -7. So if our concern is to look for the equation or the slope of this line, which connects the points 3, -1, and -5, -7, all we have to remember that slope formula, which states that m, which is actually the variable we are using for the slope, is equal to the delta y over the delta x. So this delta y would mean the change in y, and the delta x refers to the change in the value of your x. So the thing that we have to do here is to simply look for the difference, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over y sub or x sub 2 over x sub 1. Now, we decide whichever point we want to consider as our point 1 and point 2. So, if we want this to be our point 1, the point 3, -1, and the -5, -7 as our point 2, then basically, what we have to do now is to simply substitute the value. So m now will be equal to, you have y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Now you have to be careful with working with your integers. So we have your y sub 2 again. This will be, since we have this, or we have chosen this as our point 2, this will serve now as our x sub 2, while your -7 will serve as our y sub 2. And that will be done the same with your point 1, wherein your x will be, or your x sub 1 will be 3, and your y sub 1 is -1. Now, you might ask, what if you interchange? Still, you are expected to have the same answer. Suppose you made this as your point 2 and this one as your point 1. So m now, let's have the slope, y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So again, we have -7. And that will be minus your value of your y. Now, you have to be careful with working with your integers. So basically, that will be minus the -1. So there will be a change in the sign later. And your x sub 2, which happens to be -5. So there we have it, -5. And then minus the value of our x here, which is equivalent to 3. So we simply have to substitute. Okay, and then we'll just solve. Now we have -3 or -7, -7. The negative with the -1 there will automatically turn out to be +1 all over. So this is -5 minus 3, and that will give us a -8. So solving for this, we have an answer which is actually -6, and that will be all over -8. And there is a need for us to simplify this -6 over -8. and that is equal to, you have to divide this both sides or both the numerators and the denominator with their GCF, which is equivalent to 2. So therefore, the answer is 3/4. Both of them are negative, so dividing both negatives will give us a positive. So if you are finding for the slope of a line given 2 points, 3, -1, -5, -7, we simply have the slope 3/4. Okay, now the other case is when you are given the equation of the line. So your equation could come into the standard form. So remember that when you have as the standard form of your equation, that is basically ax plus by is equivalent to c. This is the standard form of the equation. Now you have to take note that there is what we call also the intercept form, which is actually y is equal to mx plus b. Okay, so if you are going to check on this one, this simply means that your m here, it's the same with the slope that we have. That is now the idea that goes with it. And the b is actually the y-intercept. This is the point that touches our y-axis. That is because when this m is equal to, or your x is equal to 0, therefore y is equal to b. Now, suppose that that is the problem. Ax plus by is equal to c. So this is the general form. What we want to do now is to change this into this form. So y is equal to mx plus b, which means that the by here will be left on the side of the equation, so that by is equivalent to, when you have the ax, and that will be using the addition property and the subtraction property of equality, you could just subtract ax here. So we also do the same on the other side. Therefore, we have the negative ax, and we maintain the c, so that will become positive or plus c. So we do now divide this all these terms by b, because our main concern is to simply have the y is equal to mx plus b. So dividing by plus your is divided by b, that is y, and dividing this also, we have negative ax over b, so that will just be it, negative a over b, and that is now with the variable x, and of course that plus c over b. So you have to distribute also the denominator, which is now b, so c over b. Now take note that your negative a over b here is actually the representation of your slope m. And your c over b, which is actually the constant all over the value of the numerical coefficient of your y, will actually serve as the y-intercept. So that if that is the case, when I have simply, for example, the equation is 3x minus 2y is equal to 6. Okay, I can just have the equation for the slope given. If this is the equation now, 3x minus 2y is equal to 6, I could just determine now the slope by determining the negative of a over b. Okay, let's take note. The a is the numerical coefficient of x, and the b is the numerical coefficient of your y, which simply means that if you have this, your 3, okay, correspond to the value of a. So that means we have the negative of 3 all over, we have now -2 as the numerical coefficient of b, so that will be -2. Therefore, the slope of this line, which is given 3x minus 2y is equivalent to 6, is simply equal to 3 halves, or 3 over 2. That is if you are given the equation. Now, if the equation is given in this form, y is equal to mx plus b, whatever the numerical coefficient of your x serves as the slope of the line. Okay, like for example, I will insert that. Suppose there is an equation which is given like y is equal to 3x plus 2. So in this form, we don't need to determine already the values of a over b. It's just that find or figure out the numerical coefficient of your x. Therefore, in this case, you simply have the slope of the line, which is equal to 3. That's how you determine the slope or the gradient of a line given the equation. And finally, you have the graph. So given the graph. So in here, there are actually 2 points which are very clear. Okay? And these are the points 0, -2. And the other point is touching this point, or we have here now the point 4, and then the other one is actually 1. Okay? But even if you do not have this point, all you have to do is to remember that m, okay, again, your m is the change in y over the change in x. So delta y over delta x, or sometimes we have here the rise over the run. Okay, that is another definition for the slope, rise over the run. So the thing that you have to determine here is, let's say for instance, we start with the point 0.02. So we simply have to count the rise, meaning how many steps did it move. Now, when it moves upward, that becomes positive. Downward, it will be denoted by a negative sign. Okay, so here from 0, -2, so 1, 2, 3. So the rise would mean 3. Okay? Again, rise would mean or determine the ups and the downs. And we have now the run is from that point, which is now 0. We have to go horizontally to find for the run. So from here, you have to 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this example, we have the slope equal to 3 over 4. So those are the 3 cases on how we could possibly look for the slope or gradient of a line.